Today I'm going to talk about thank you notes, whether you should send them or not. Hi, I'm Shelley Piedmont, a former recruiter turned career coach, and I want you to thrive and not just survive in your job. Thank you notes can be a very controversial subject for many job seekers. I have heard people get very upset when they think about writing a thank you note. Oftentimes I hear, well, they should thank me for coming in for an interview. Well, there's some truth to that. But let's talk about the pros and potential cons of writing a thank you note after an interview. Well, let's start first with what could be a positive in doing this. Well, the first thing is that it can tell the interviewer that you are interested in the role. You're doing the extra effort to write the thank you note, and probably within it, you're expressing interest in the role. So that is helping them understand that you actually do want this role. And that can be important in the decision, because the decision to hire can fall on three categories: whether you can do the job, whether you fit in with the team and culture, and whether you want the job. So writing a thank you note can help you with the wanting the job. If you like this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe. Another thing it can do is show you're paying attention and listening during that interview. You can talk about things that that interviewer said that you remember and that it, struck you as something very important. You can mention that in the thank you note, as well as you can talk about those items, those behaviors that you know that they are looking for in the role and that you have. You can remind them of that. Another thing a thank you note can do is correct an error that you may have made in the interview. Maybe you misspoke. Maybe you cited a number that was incorrect. This is a way for you to clear the air and let the interviewer know that you understood that you made a mistake and that you wanted to provide the correct information. So that can be helpful if you feel like you left them thinking you didn't know what you were talking about. And so you have an opportunity then to set the record straight. A fourth thing that a thank you note can do is show your communication skills. Now, if communication is important in this role, and many of them they are, the way that you communicate, the words you use, the tone of it, that gives them an idea of how you will communicate. And if that's important to the role, they may like to see that in your thank you note, and it may positively impress the interviewer. And lastly, a reason to do it is because your competition likely is not doing it. Many people don't want to send a thank you note or don't think of sending a thank you note. So when an interviewer gets a thank you note, it does make you stand out. So that can be important, again, because you want to make a nice positive impression. And so a thank you note can help you with that. Now, that being said, there are some potential reasons why you wouldn't want to write a thank you note. The first reason is because you don't want that job. After you've gone through the interview, you've had enough information to decide that it's not the right role for you, or maybe your experience was negative and you're like, no way I'm going to work there. Well, then why would you bother sending a thank you note? That absolutely would not make any sense. Another reason why you wouldn't want to potentially send a thank you note is because of the culture of that organization. Maybe the culture of that organization is very informal, and they would think negatively on you that you wanted to do a formal thing like write a thank you note. So one of the things when you're deciding whether to send one or not to send one would be to think about the culture of that organization. Would they appreciate a thank you note? Or would they potentially think that was a little bit weird and not in line with how they think about the culture? So you would never want to do something that would be held against you. And in some places, in some organizations, sending a thank you note could be that. And then lastly, I would always say, if you really don't want to send one, then don't. You have a lot of choices in your job search of things you do and things you don't want to do. And if this is one of those red lines where you're like, I do not want to do it, it's a waste of my time, I hate that, I'm a bad writer, you can add whatever you want to the reasons why you don't want to do it, then don't. You should always do any activity with a positive feeling around it. So if you can't get positive feelings around sending a thank you note, then please don't do it. It probably is going to make your thank you note ineffective because you won't put in the effort. And in the worst case, it might come off a little negative, you not meaning it to be that way, but just your mindset might make that happen. So in that case, it is just better to not do it, then you don't have to worry about it. So what do I recommend for thank you notes? Well, I'm of the opinion that why not? For most places, I think it would be a nice thing to do. It's certainly mostly will put you in a positive light. So I don't see, for the most part, the harm unless it would be a culture that would, not like that. So I would be a pro thank you note, but really it's up to you. And at the end of the day, is it really going to matter that much whether you get the job or not? Who knows? I know of some hiring teams that did decide on the applicant because they sent the thank you note. I also know a lot of teams that decided on other people who didn't send a thank you note. So it's really up to you. But at the end of the day, I think for the most part, it's a good thing to do.